As we continue to remember the late president, it's a fact that in February of 1991, George H.W. Bush was the most popular president since records began. His approval rating was 89%. He had just won the Gulf War, and he looked like he'd be unbeatable in the 1992 election. So much so that prominent Democrats actually sat out of the race because they thought Bush couldn't be beat. But then something changed.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
Bush would end up reneging on that promise. The country was now in the middle of a recession, and that created an opening for two contenders. The first was an obscure governor from the state of Arkansas. His name was Bill Clinton. The second was this guy right here. Do you know who that is? That's Texas billionaire Ross Perot, a name you might have heard. Perot ran as an independent. He ended up changing the course of history. There was no love lost between these two guys. He came out of nowhere and got 19% of the vote, the most for an independent candidate since 1912.
I have lived the American dream. I came from a very modest background. Nobody's been luckier than I've been. All the way across the spectrum, and the greatest riches of all are my wife and children. It's true of any family. But I want all the children, I want these young people up here to be able to start with nothing but an idea like I did and build a business.
All right, so if you're saying this is a myth, the answer is yes. Of course, Ross Perot took votes from both Bill Clinton and George Bush, but the vast majority were Republicans, and most political analysts agree that he cost George Bush the election in 1992, meaning we might never have had a President Clinton. We might never have heard of Hillary Clinton. And how about a one President Barack Obama? He was elected twice. And what about President Trump? Yes, you can keep going down that rabbit hole. Now, despite only serving one term as president, George H.W. Bush made a lasting impact during his presidency. His state funeral will happen in the Capitol today at 11 o'clock this morning. His son and former President George W. Bush will give the eulogy. After the funeral, Mr. Bush's casket will leave the Capitol for the final time and then return home to Texas.